my Whipple Free Library, and my name is Jalen. I will be your host for today. We are gonna watch a fun video and lots of science experiments together in just a moment. But first, I have a few things to bring to your attention, alrighty? So like I said, we are all muted and we're gonna stay that way so we can all hear every part of the story and not miss anything that is being said. On top of that, you'll be able to hear me when I have special fun announcements for you guys. Okay, let's see. Second thing, our cameras. Some of us have them on, some of them have us off. That's totally okay. It's totally up to you guys. You don't have to have it on to enjoy the experience, but it might be helpful. We can all see each other, especially when you guys have questions for me at the end. Alrighty, that's super important to know. Let's see. Third thing to bring to your attention. During the video, I'm gonna pause it during the experiments because I wanna know what you guys think is gonna happen next. So the way that works is that a poll is gonna pop up on your screen and it's gonna ask you what do you think is gonna happen during the experiment, and you guys can choose from multiple choice answers, and then once everyone has voted, we'll go back to our science lab and you'll see your theories being tested out with our scientist friend, alrighty? And then after our video, we're gonna do a really quick 3-question to see how much you guys remember about dry ice. And then after that, I'm gonna be showing you guys a live bonus experiment that you guys can try right at home. And I promise you, you probably already have all of the items and ingredients you're gonna need. So that's gonna be some fun stuff after our program that we will watch together. And then after all of that, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna chat. If you guys have any questions, that's gonna be the time to ask, and we'll just hang out, guys, just like we did before the show. Alrighty, so now that all of that stuff is out of the way, who is ready for some story and some science? If you're ready, I'd love to see some thumbs up. Yeah, look at me on camera and thumbs up, or you can give me a Zoom thumbs up. Awesome. Alrighty, guys, it's time to get this party started. All right, so make sure you have your volume up. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys, and we're gonna head over to my super awesome fun friend, science teller Ricky, who is gonna help us experience our story today. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Ricky, and I'm a science teller. A science teller is part scientist, part story teller. That's right. When you mix them together, you get a science teller. And that's someone who uses really cool experiments to tell an amazing story. That's right. You guys are getting good at this. Today's story is called Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Let's get started.
Oh yeah.
A long, long, long time ago, there was a kingdom. In this kingdom, there was a castle. In this castle, there were 2 kids. Their names were Henry and Beth. Henry and Beth, however, were not supposed to be in the castle. But one of their favorite things to do was to sneak into places where they shouldn't be. Suddenly, they heard voices. Someone was coming. They started to run.
Uh-oh.
They ran down the hall and wham! Crashed into someone. They looked up thinking that it might be the castle guard, but they were wrong. It wasn't the castle guard at all. It was the last person they wanted to run into.
The king.
Freeze! What are you doing in my castle? You two are in big trouble. Now come with me.
Before the king could grab them, Henry and Beth ran, pushing past the king, ran down another long hall, and ran outside.
So fast, so fast.
Woo! That was a close call. Henry and Beth started running back to the village. They were almost home when suddenly, look out! They dove to the ground just in time as something flew through the air right over their heads and disappeared into the forest.
Whoa.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute! something flying above their heads. Would you like to see what it looked like?
Yeah.
Right here, I have a cooler. Inside this cooler, I have, whoa, woo, something cold. It's so cold, I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. In this cooler, I have dry ice. Now, is dry ice hot or cold? It's cold. It's so cold, it's 109 degrees below zero. And that's why I have to wear these gloves in order to touch it. Everyone, stick out your hand. Close your eyes. Imagine you're holding an ice cube.
Cold.
What starts happening to that ice cube? It's
Melting?
melting, that's right. That means it's turning from a solid into a liquid. Okay, everyone, open your eyes. Does dry ice melt?
No.
Does it turn wet like an ice cube?
No.
That's why it's called dry ice. Now, when you heat up dry ice, it turns from a solid, not into a liquid, but into a gas. Now, what's it called when something turns from a solid into a gas? Evaporation?
No.
No, that's from a liquid to a gas. Is it called condensation?
No.
No, that's from a gas to a liquid. Is it called procrastination?
No.
No, I'll tell you what that means tomorrow. When a solid turns into a gas, it's called
Sublimation.
sublimation. Right here, I have one of my oldest pieces of equipment. It's called a film canister. I'm going to put a piece of dry ice in this film canister, and it will start to sublimate or turn from a solid into a gas. Even though we can't see it, matter is gas. A matter is anything that takes up space. Now, what takes up more space? A solid or a gas?
A gas.
A gas. A gas will expand and take up much of space as it can. Now, when I put the dry ice in the film canister and put the lid on top, what do you think is going to happen? It's time to do our scientific guess, which is also called a hypothesis.
Alrighty, guys, it's time for your first hypothesis. So, this first experiment I like to call the rocket. How long do you guys think is it going to take to explode? About 10 seconds, about 30 seconds, or more than 1 minute? And remember, seconds go by pretty fast, like 1, 2, 3. So keep that in mind when you're making your own hypothesis. Wow, look at that, guys. We already have 7 votes, 7 guesses. Fantastic. 13. I'm telling you, you guys are getting really fast at this. This is awesome. You guys are really thinking about this. Wow, we are all thinking something totally different. And that's the fun part about science. We're trying out different kinds of possible solutions. Alrighty, guys, I'm gonna stop the poll and I'm gonna share the results with you guys so you guys can check this out. So, 43% of us think it's gonna take 10 seconds. Another 43% of us think it's gonna take 30 seconds, but 14% of us think it's gonna take more than 1 minute. This is awesome, guys. We are thinking totally different hypothesis. This is cool. So let's head back to our lab and check out how long it takes to explode.
Okay, all right. Now let's see what happens.
Nice. Look at that, guys.
Oh, look at that. It's sublimated.
Whoa.
Wow.
Zoom in.
Isn't that awesome? I love it. All right, now I'm going to put the lid on top.
Here we go.
Now, oh my God!
That happened super fast!
Wow! That was awesome! Whoa! Whoa! Wow! That was amazing! When we put the lid on top, we trapped the gas inside. The gas kept expanding, trying to find space, which in turn built up pressure inside of the film canister, which made it pop up into the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Bev saw something flying over their heads.
They didn't see what flew overhead, but Beth had an idea. Maybe that was the evil Ice Sorceress.
Oh yeah! Dance party! Dance party! Whoa! Look at this! Look at this! Look at this! Look at this!
But Henry laughed. That's just an old story people tell to scare their kids. She's not real.
Oh. It's tricky.
Now what would you do? A, would you run home? Or B, would you follow it into the forest?
What do you guys think? Are we feeling adventurous? Oh yeah. Let's do it.
Come on, let's go see what it was. Henry grabbed Beth by the arm and together they ran towards the forest. Meanwhile, high atop the castle tower, someone was watching them.
Uh-oh. Well, that can't be good. Who is it?
It's those two pesky kids. They're heading into the forest. I'll stop them. The guard raced down the long hall, jumped onto his horse,
Uh-oh.
and rode to the edge of the forest.
Serious, guys. Uh-oh. He's gonna catch up.
Right there, far in the distance, running through the trees, he spotted Henry and Beth. The guard started to chase them. Henry and Beth started to run.
Uh-oh.
They were fast, but the guard's horse was faster.
Henry and Beth need our help. Put your hands up and be like the trees in the forest.
He got closer
Uh-oh.
and closer.
No.
The hoofbeats got louder and louder.
Run faster.
He rode alongside them. Just as he reached out, about to grab them, they dove off the path and disappeared from sight.
Be a tree. Be a tree.
He looked right. Then he looked left. The guard saw something. But it wasn't Henry and Beth. It wasn't a person at all. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog.
Whoa.
He felt very cold. Something wasn't right. He turned and rode off in the other direction. It was filling the entire forest.
Well, that can't be good.
Henry and Beth peeked out from behind the old tree they were hiding behind. The guard was gone.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute!
It's science time!
In the story, Henry and Beth saw something in the forest. It was a mysterious white cloud of fog. That's right. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Do you remember what it's called when a solid turns into a gas?
Sublimation.
Sublimation.
Yeah.
Right here, I have a graduated cylinder filled with water. I'm going to add dry ice to that water. What do you think is going to happen? It's time to make our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
Alrighty, you heard the scientist. It's time for your next hypothesis. So this next experiment I like to call the foggy tube. How big will the cloud of fog get inside of that cylinder, guys? Do you think it's going to fill the tube up halfway, all the way, or do you think it's going to go over the top? Look at that. I already see 12 scientific guesses. Wow, and we all think the same thing so far. Okay, look at this. 16, 17 guesses, 20 guesses. You guys are getting really fast at this. This is awesome. Okay, pretty interesting, guys. I'm going to share the results with you guys so you can check this out. Let's see. So 0% of us think it's going to fill up halfway. 13% of us think it's going to fill up all the way. But the majority, 87% of us think it's going to go over the top. Alrighty, guys. I think those are really great guesses. So let's head back to our lab and check this out. Here we go.
All right. It's time to test out our theory. Let's see what happens.
Here we go.
When we put the dry ice into water, the water makes the dry ice heat up and sublimate even faster. That allows us to see all the gas, just like a fog or a cloud. That's right. We can actually, pour it in our hands.
Wow.
Look at that. Whoa. We can even pour it in our lab coats.
Fantastic hypothesis, guys.
Ooh,
Ooh, that's gotta be cold.
Woo! I can even pour it on you.
Oh, yeah. Wow, it's like we're in a cloud.
And this is what it looked like when Henry and Beth saw the mysterious white fog.
The guard was gone, but that's when they saw it. Right there, the fog. It was coming towards them.
Uh-oh.
What would you do? Would you A, stay in the foggy forest? Or would you B, warn the king?
I mean, random fog, guys, that's gotta be important, right? We gotta tell the...
Quickly, Henry and Beth ran back towards the castle to warn the king. Henry and Beth ran fast as they could.
Fast, fast, fast!
They saw the castle in the distance.
Woo, that is a long run. Woo.
Finally, they made it out of the forest. But they were too late.
Oh no. Uh-oh. You guys, it's her.
Right there, standing in front of the castle, they saw her. It was the evil Ice Sorceress.
This isn't gonna be good.
Suddenly, the trumpets blared. The castle gates blew open. And the knights marched out.
Left, right, left, right, left, right.
But nobody could have known what was going to happen next.
Uh-oh.
The evil Ice Sorceress stomped her feet. She clapped her hands.
Whoa.
She snapped her fingers. With a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down from the sky.
Bubbles?
When the bubbles popped, they released ice-cold fog that froze the night solid.
Oh no!
Wait a minute!
It's science time!
In the story, the evil Ice Sorceress stomps her feet. She claps her hands and she snaps her
Fingers!
That's right. When she does, she makes bubbles of fog. We're going to do an experiment to show you exactly what that looked like. Right here, I have a flask. In my flask is water. Now we're going to add a chemical to this water. Soap!
Ta-da!
We're going to add a piece of dry ice to the soapy-filled water. What do you think is going to happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also known as a hypothesis.
Alrighty guys, it's time for our next hypothesis. So this next experiment I like to call bubbles. How many bubbles do you think is about to be created with the soapy water and dry ice? Do we think it's going to be a lot of tiny bubbles or one big bubble? We got to do the voice where it's not the same, right? Tiny bubbles or a big bubble. Alrighty, look at that. There's already 18 scientific guesses, guys. That is awesome. Alrighty, look at that. Now we have all voted. I'm going to stop the poll and share it with you guys so you guys can look at these results. So 70% of us think it's going to be lots of tiny bubbles, but 30% of us think it's going to be one big bubble. Alrighty, I like these scientific guesses, guys. So let's head back to our lab and check out the destiny of these bubbles.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's blue.
There's the soap. All right. Now it's time to add the dry ice.
Yeah.
Here we go. Whoa! Oh my gosh! Look at that!
Awesome. Tiny bubbles!
You can see the fog inside of the bubbles.
Whoa! It's a bubble party! Great guess!
The dry ice supplemented. It turned from a solid into a gas. The gas is filling up the soap. And that's why we're getting so many bubbles. Lots and lots of bubbles. This is really cool. When the bubbles pop, you can see the fog inside of them escape. It's really cool. And this is what it looked like when the evil Ice Sorceress made bubbles of fog.
Fantastic hypothesis!
But it wasn't the nights that she wanted.
Uh-oh. Who could it be?
Right there, she found who she was looking for.
The king.
Slowly, she walked towards the king.
Super freaky.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands.
Oh
She snapped her fingers.
no! Run, king, run!
And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, She released a giant bubble of fog. The bubble popped, releasing an ice-cold fog that froze the king solid. Then, ever so slowly, the evil Ice Sorceress turned around and looked out into the distance. With a flash of her icy blue eyes, she caught Henry and Beth watching her.
Run, guys, run!
They started to run. They arrived at a sign with two locations: Fiery Mountains or Frozen Swamp.
What?
What would you do? Would you A, run to the Fiery Mountains, or would you B, head to the Frozen Swamp?
What kind of crazy options are these, guys? What?
Henry and Beth reached the base of the Fiery Mountains. There, it was said, the dragons lived. A dragon was Henry and Beth's only hope to stop the evil Ice Sorceress.
Oh, smart idea.
They climbed up, up, and up, the narrow rocky path winding their way higher and higher into the mountains. With every step they took, they felt the ground getting warmer beneath their feet. As they got closer, they saw it was the opening to a cave.
What would you do? Would you A, keep climbing, or B, go into the cave?
Go into the cave! Cave stuff is cool stuff. Oh, yeah. Alrighty, let's check it out, guys.
With whatever courage they had left, Henry and Beth stepped inside of the cave. At once they heard a deafening roar. They looked up. They couldn't believe their eyes. They were standing face to face with a dragon.
Whoa.
Two children in my mountain cave. What are you doing here?
Okay, everybody, Henry and Beth needs our help again, okay? On 3, yell, "The evil Ice Sorceress is back," okay? You ready? 1, 2, 3.
The evil Ice Sorceress is back!
Roar! My fire should be able to melt her.
Awesome! Cool!
The dragon flew up in the air. Henry and Beth felt the powerful wind in their face and hair.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute!
It's science time, guys!
In the story, Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon. That's right. While they were flying through the air, they felt how strong the wind was. We're going to do an experiment to show you what that was like. Now, what's all around us that we need to breathe?
Air.
Air. Now, is air a solid, a liquid, or a gas?
A gas.
That's right. Air is made out of tiny little particles, too small for us to see. But if we can't see it, how do we know it exists? Because we can feel it. We can also see the effects that it has on other objects. Right here, I have a leaf blower. The leaf blower sucks air through this end and shoots it out at 140 miles an hour. Oh, oh my goodness, that was amazing! I wonder if I can find something else in the lab to use it on.
Ooh.
Let's try the leaf blower with this toilet paper. What do you think is going to happen? It's time for us to make our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
Alrighty, you heard the scientist. It's time for your next hypothesis. So this next experiment I like to call the leaf blower. So what do you think is going to happen to the toilet paper? You guys can choose two options. Do you think it's going to fly through the air, fall to the ground, or unravel? What do you guys think? And remember, you can choose two options, even if you want to guess the same thing twice. Totally up to you guys. Wow, look at that. I see 10 scientific guesses happening already. We're doing it super, super fast. Awesome, guys. Wow, look at that. We're thinking something totally different, guys. We are all guessing different answers. This is awesome. Wow, 20 votes so far. I love what our science knowledge is taking us, guys. Awesome. Alrighty, so now I'm going to share the results with you guys because we are totally all over the place. Alrighty, check it out, guys. 50% of us think it's going to fly through the air, and 27% of us think it's going to fall to the ground, but the big 73% of us think it's going to unravel. Alrighty, guys, I think this is awesome. We all think different combinations. Fantastic. So let's go back to our laboratory and check out what happens to the toilet paper.
All right, now it's time to test out our theory. Fast-moving air has lots of energy. When the energy comes into contact with another object, like the toilet paper, it makes the toilet paper fly through the air. And that's what it looked like when Henry and Beth flew through the air with the dragon.
Great guesses, guys. It flew through the air and unraveled.
Flying through the air, the dragon saw the entire kingdom below. The castle was completely frozen in ice. Right there stood the evil Ice Sorceress. She was watching. The dragon landed in front of the castle and put Henry and Beth down.
I'll be right back.
The dragon took a deep breath and released a blast of fire.
Not even fire can melt me.
She stomped her feet.
Oh no!
She clapped her hands.
I can't look!
She snapped her fingers. And with a wave of the hand and flick of the wrist, she released bubbles of fog that rained down on Henry and Beth. Just when they thought all hope was lost, Henry and Beth heard a sound. The dragon spread its wings wide apart and covered Henry and Beth like a giant umbrella. The bubbles popped, releasing their ice-cold fog that froze the dragon solid. Then the evil Ice Sorceress rose up into the air and started flying towards them.
What would you do? Would you A, Face the evil sorceress? Or would you B, find a place to hide?
We gotta hide, guys. I don't want to end up like a frozen popsicle.
Henry and Beth started to run. Henry and Beth saw an open window in the castle. They jumped inside. Down, down, down to the coal castle cellar. Everything in the cellar was completely frozen in ice, except for one thing. An old wooden barrel.
Well, I wonder what's inside.
They opened the barrel. It was filled with salt. As they climbed inside the barrel, some salt spilled out onto the ground, and it started to melt the ice. Just then, someone kicked the door in.
Whoa!
I can see you. Come out of that barrel.
She stomped her feet. She clapped her hands. She snapped her fingers. The evil Ice Sorceress started to wave her hand.
But before the evil Ice Sorceress could flick her wrist, Henry and Beth had an idea. They reached their hands inside of the barrel, grabbed a handful of salt, and on 3, 1, 2, 3, they threw it at her.
Whoa!
All at once, the salt began to work. The evil Ice Sorceress broke out in a cold sweat, and she watched as the salt melted through her icy skin. With one final shriek, the evil Ice Sorceress exploded into millions of tiny water droplets that fell like rain.
Whoa!
And just like that, the evil Ice Sorceress was gone. This time, for good.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute!
You guys know what time it is. Science time!
In this story, Henry and Beth melted the evil Ice Sorceress with salt. She exploded into millions of ice droplets. We're gonna do an experiment to show you what that looked like. Okay, everyone, do like this. Okay, do it again.
Try it out, guys.
We breathe out CO2 or carbon
Dioxide.
dioxide. That's the same thing that dry ice is made out of. Dry ice is just the solid form of carbon dioxide. Inside this cartridge is carbon dioxide gas. When we open up this end, carbon dioxide escapes very, very fast. I'm gonna attach it to this tube. And what's inside of this tube? Nothing right now. We're gonna put water inside of the tube. We're going to pull this lever and release the carbon dioxide gas. Now, what do you think's gonna happen? It's time for our scientific guess, also called a hypothesis.
Alrighty, guys, you heard the scientists. It's time for your next hypothesis. So this next experiment I like to call CO2, alrighty? So what do you think is gonna happen to the water inside of that tube? Do you think it's gonna evaporate, which means the water is gonna turn into a gas? Do you think it's gonna shoot out like rain? Or do you think the water is gonna freeze inside of the tube? What do you guys think? Look at that. I already see 10 scientific guesses. And once again, we are all thinking something totally different. This is awesome, guys. I like where our brains are taking us. Fantastic. Look at that, 18 hypotheses happening already. Wow, you guys are getting super good at this. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna stop the poll and share the results with you guys just like we did before. Check it out, everyone. 10% of us think it's gonna evaporate, which means turning into a gas. The big majority, 71%, think it's gonna shoot out like rain. And then 19% of us think it's gonna freeze. Alrighty, fantastic hypothesis, guys. Let's head back to our lab and check this out. Here we go.
Okay, well, let's see what's gonna happen. Now, Let's count down from 10. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Here we go. 4, 3, 2,
1. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Uh-oh, Ricky is soaking wet. Whoa.
Oops. And that's what it looked like when the evil Ice Sorceress exploded into thousands of little tiny droplets of water.
Henry and Beth got right to work. They dragged the barrel outside the castle.
Whoa, that's gotta be heavy, guys. But you can do it!
Lifted it high over their heads, and dumped salt all over the dragon.
Wow.
All they could do now was wait. And wait. And the salt began to melt the ice. The dragon started to move.
Awesome.
It flapped its giant wings and flew into the air. Flying over the kingdom, the dragon saw everything still covered in ice. It took a deep breath and released a blast of fire. As the ice melted and the kingdom thawed out, a huge cloud of fog formed over the land.
Wait a minute! Wait a minute!
It's science time!
At the end of the story, the dragon took a deep breath and let out a blast of
Fire!
fire. That's right. The fire melted all the ice and left a big cloud of fog. This is an experiment to show you what that looked like. Right here, I have a bucket filled with hot water. Right here, I have dry ice. What do you think is going to happen when I put the dry ice inside of the bucket of hot water? It's time to make our scientific guess, also called a I almost said the word hypothesis. Oh!
Alrighty, guys, it's time for your next hypothesis. So, for this experiment, I like to call it the bucket. So, how much fog do you think is about to be created? A little bit, a lot, or way too much? And by way too much, I think I'm talking about like going everywhere, all over the place. What do you guys think? A little bit, a lot, like a full bucket, or way too much going all over the bucket? Look at that, 18 scientific guesses already. You guys are super fast at this. You're basically pros, huh? I would call you guys some pretty awesome scientists. Alrighty, look at that. Everyone has put in their scientific guesses. I'm gonna share the results with you guys. So 0% of us think it's gonna be a little bit, 24% of us think it's gonna be a lot, but the big majority, 76% of us think it's gonna be way too much. Awesome, guys. So here we go. I'm gonna put us back into our laboratory and we're gonna check out how much fog is gonna be inside that bucket.
Wow. Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
I need your help counting down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
Here we go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Whoa. Look at that, guys. It's going everywhere.
The ice is sublimating very fast because it's in hot water.
Wow. Awesome guesses, guys.
This is awesome. Whoa, 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 whoa,
There's
whoa,
so
whoa,
much.
whoa, whoa. cool! It's sublimating at such a high rate.
It's still going!
And that's exactly what it looked like when the kingdom started to thaw out again.
The dragon waved goodbye to Henry and Beth and headed back to her home in the mountains. Everything returned to normal. Suddenly, someone called for Henry and Beth. It was the king. Then they remembered that they were in trouble for sneaking around the castle.
Uh-oh.
The king called for them again. This time, there was nowhere to hide.
Oh no.
Henry, Beth, I've been looking everywhere for you. Because of what you did, our kingdom is safe. All hail Henry and Beth, and your dragon friend too.
Oh yeah.
And from now on, you are allowed to sneak around the castle whenever you'd like.
That is awesome! Look how happy they are.
And that concludes Dragons, Return of the Ice Sorceress. Did you have a good time?
Alrighty guys, and that was our story and science experiment. If you guys enjoyed that, I'd love to see you with some thumbs up. Oh yeah, awesome! I'm so glad you guys liked it. You rocked those experiment scientific guesses out of the park. Your hypotheses were awesome. So we learned a lot about dry ice. So I have 3 questions for you guys to see how much you remember, okay? They're gonna pop up just like our polls did when we made our hypothesis. So first one, what is dry ice? Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, or carbon trioxide? Which do you guys remember? Solid carbon monoxide, solid carbon dioxide, solid carbon trioxide. Look at that, I already see 15 answers, fantastic. I like where we are heading, guys, this is awesome. So the big majority of us got it right. It is solid carbon dioxide. Great job, guys. It was 87% of us that got that one. Fantastic. Okay, here's our second question, temperature. How cold is dry ice? 0 degrees, negative 32 degrees, or negative 109 degrees. Either way, guys, these are freezing temperatures. We never want to be around this kind of weather. Am I right? Look at that, already 20 answers. Fantastic. We all got it correct, guys. Negative 109 degrees. Below 0, guys. Freezing cold. Fantastic job. And here is the last question I have for you guys. Which takes up the most space? A liquid, a gas, or a solid? Which do you guys remember? A liquid, a gas, or a solid? Look at that, fantastic. 18 of us have already answered, and we all got it correct. It's a gas. Fantastic, guys. Remember, just like our science friend told us, gases build, 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 and expand until they explode. Fantastic, guys. You rocked that out of the park. Totally awesome. So, like I said, we learned a lot about dry ice and about carbon dioxide. So now it's time for me to show you that bonus live experiment that I promised you guys. Alrighty? So, first things first, I'm going to tell you everything you're going to need. Most importantly, you're going to need a parent, an adult, or a grown up. All right, I'm going to highlight my screen so you guys can really see me. That's the most important thing you're going to need. Now, here are all the other physical items. Alrighty? So, I have a cake pan, or you can use a plate. This is just to make sure you guys don't get any messes anywhere. You'll see, I make a big mess when I do this, and that's why I have my cake pan. Okay, and then you're gonna need a little bowl, or you can use a cup, totally up to you guys, but today I'm gonna show you with a little bowl. And you're gonna need some table salt, any kind of table salt will do. You're gonna need some water that I have here in my little cup, and you're gonna need ice cubes, and the last item you'll need is a string. I like to do a string mustache. Thank you very much. I brought this myself. Alrighty, so now we're gonna head over to my science camera so you guys can get a close-up of the experiment while I show you. So I'm gonna turn on my secret science camera. I moved all my items around while I was showing you guys, and we're gonna spotlight that video so you guys can really see. I'm gonna get my cord out of the way for you guys. Alrighty, so make sure we're in a perfect position for you guys to look at this. You guys can use as many ice cubes or as many little ice cubes as you want. But for today's experiment, I'm going to show you guys using one more. Let's do 5 ice cubes today. All righty. So then you're going to want to get your water. My lid is always super hard to pull off. Oh, here we go. And you're going to pour that right on in there. Not too much, just enough to get it all wet. Alrighty, and then you're gonna take your string and you're gonna dip it in there and get it nice and wet. But it's easier for me, I'm gonna dip it in my cup of water that I have because I have leftover water. You wanna get the whole string really, really nice and wet, okay? Alrighty, I think that's really wet. So, look at that, I'm getting water all over the place and that's why I have my cake pan. So you're gonna wanna lay your string on your ice. And you definitely want to make sure it's touching. So go ahead and just use your fingers to place the string right on top. Alrighty? And then you're going to get your salt. And you're going to pour your salt on top of your string and ice cubes. Or ice cube if you just use one. Like I said, totally up to you guys. Lots and lots of salt. So while that science magic is happening, I'm going to ask you guys to make another hypothesis. All right, it's gonna pop up just like the old ones. So this experiment I like to call ice cubes and salt. So what do you guys think is gonna happen to the ice cubes? Are they gonna sink to the bottom? Are they gonna stick to the string? Or do you think it's gonna snap the string and break it? What do you guys think? I already see 8 scientific guesses. Very interesting. Check this out, 12. You guys are basically pros at this already. Little scientists, this is awesome. 16, right? And when you do this experiment, you wanna make sure the ice and string stay on for, let's say, 30 to 40 seconds, all right? Which is fantastic because some of you guys are still making your scientific guesses. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Look at that. So 5% of us think that the ice is gonna sink to the bottom. 25% of us think that the ice is gonna snap and break the string, but the big majority, 70% of us think the ice cubes are gonna stick to the string. Alrighty, these are pretty awesome hypotheses from you guys. So, going back to our science cam, let's check out what has happened. Alrighty, all right, so here we go. I should have let some string stick out to make it easier for me to grab. Alrighty, look at that, guys. It's sticking. I'm gonna get really close to some of these ice cubes so you can really see. I'm gonna move over my plate so I don't drip all over the place. I'm getting really, really close. Look at that, guys. You can see the salt on top of the cubes and the string. It's like, ooh, this is really cold. A chandelier. Awesome. Wow, a lot of you guys saw that coming. Fantastic hypothesis, guys. Alrighty, I'm gonna stop the camera there. And I'm gonna zoom into my face so you guys can see me talking to you. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna explain to you guys how that experiment works. So the salt melts the ice, right? Just like in our video, when the kids got into the bucket of salt and it started spilling onto the floor and started melting the ice, the water then helps the ice refreeze. And because the string is on top, it refreezes all throughout the string, and that's how we get it to stick. What's also really, really cool, I already see some of you guys trying that out. It's awesome, super cool. What's really cool is that in real life, in like really, really cold places, when it starts to snow and the roads and stairs to a store get really, really icy, people put salt right on top to get all of that to melt away to make sure everything is safe. So not only does it work in a super cool science experiment at home, but people use this in real life for safety purposes. So I'm so excited you guys like that experiment, and definitely try it multiple times. You never know. If it fails the first time, keep going. Scientists never give up. And if we did that, we wouldn't have any experiments to try out, now would we? So keep trying it out. Use lots of ice cubes and use different strings. You never know which is going to work the best. But most importantly, have your parent, adult, or grown up to make sure everything is A-okay with you guys. Fantastic job. So that's about all of the time we have today. You guys rocked it out of the park. I'm going to give another spotlight video to give you guys another announcement, just really quick. Whoop, I am still on it, but I'm heading over to the librarians.
Hi, everybody. I hope you had a great time tonight and really enjoyed the show. Ken and I enjoyed it here in the library. I just want to remind you again, if you haven't signed up through readsquared.com, check it out, because we have more special programs planned, as well as the missions and the games and the badges you can earn. And don't forget about our read and beat as well. Lots of fun this summer. Go sign up if you haven't done it yet, and tell your friends. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Awesome. Hey, guys. Thank you so much again to the Whipple Free Library, and thank you, Miss Barbara and Mr. Ken, for joining us on our science adventure. I had such a blast with you guys. You guys rocked it out of the park. All right, if you guys try this experiment at home, make sure to take pictures and tag us. #ScienceTellers. I would love to see you guys doing this experiment at home. That'd be totally awesome. If you like today's story, make sure to like Science Tellers on Facebook or Instagram. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night and a fantastic week. Thank you so much, guys. You guys are awesome. Bye, guys. See you later.